Good afternoon. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm joined by members of my administration. We are located in the D.C. Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency headquarters. I'm joined, and you're going to hear from a number of members of my team, and we will be available to answer your questions, including City Administrator Kevin Donahue, Director Clint Osborne from HCMA, Director Timothy Spriggs from DPW, Director Sharon Kirschbaum from DDOT, Director Delano Hunter from DGS, Director Phil Thomas from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations, as well as Director Scott from Serve DC, the Chief of Police, Pamela Smith, the Chief of Fire and EMS, John Donnelly, the Superintendent, the Chancellor of DC Public Schools, Chancellor Farabee, the Director of DC Metro, or WMATA, Randy Clark, and Director Laura Zeilinger from the Department of Human Services. So having said all that, good afternoon, and we are here to give you an update on our preparations for the upcoming winter weather. Right now, the forecast is showing that Washington, D.C. will likely get a significant amount of snow overnight and throughout Monday. So given that forecast, I have declared a snow emergency for Washington, D.C. Activating a snow emergency allows our teams to better clear emergency routes across D.C., and it will remain in effect through at least the end of the day on Tuesday. So people who have their vehicles parked around snow emergency routes, you need to move them, and you need to move them now to a new location. If our snow team encounters your vehicle, they will relocate it to a new location. So please pay attention to where you're parked and move your vehicles now. We will push out a map of snow emergency routes so that residents know if they're parked on one, but you can also find those routes at snow.dc.gov and also pay attention to the signage. Our priority, of course, is the safety of everyone in our city and getting the city cleaned and fully opened as soon as possible. So that said, if you don't need to be on the roads tonight and tomorrow, stay home. Please stay off the roads. Give our plow teams plenty of room to work during and after the snowfall. The teams are out in all 8 wards now, pre-treating the roads. And Director Spriggs will discuss when plowing begins and how the snow team prioritizes roads. And we'll hear from General Manager Randy Clark about Metro's operations shortly. Tomorrow, Monday, January 6th, DC Public Schools will be closed. Tomorrow, Monday, January 6th, DC Public Schools will be closed. And as everyone knows, I don't like to close schools, so that should tell you how serious the forecast is. Tomorrow, Monday, January 6th, DC government will operate in a modified posture. All those workers who have a remote work arrangement should use that remote work schedule tomorrow. Non-emergency in-person services, however, will be closed. So that includes services like recreation centers, indoor pools, and the DMV. That said, many of our DC government employees will be reporting to their workstations across DC and out in the community, and I want to thank them in advance for their whole hard work, especially those who are planning to perhaps stay over at work. So thank you for your hard work. We also have outreach teams in the community making sure people come into shelter. I want to be clear about everyone who is listening. We have space and shelter for everyone. And it's very important, given the forecast for this week, that people come inside. So people who are experiencing homelessness come inside. We have the shelter capacity, and we need people to come into shelter. So between the snow and the cold, these are life-threatening conditions. Residents are reminded that you can call the shelter hotline by dialing 311 to request free transportation for yourself or someone else. We also know, and as we have been talking for many weeks, about the national special security events happening in the district. This week, we will have two. The counting and certification of the 2024 presidential election will occur during the joint session of Congress tomorrow. And the state funeral for President Jimmy Carter will happen from Tuesday through Thursday this week. So we also want you to pay attention to closures related to those events. Both of those events will have been expected, and we expect that they will happen as planned, and we will support the federal government in all of their efforts. With that, I'm going to wrap up by asking everyone to stay safe, check on your neighbors, spread the word about staying off the road, about the need to move vehicles off of snow emergency routes. And finally, I want to thank all of the teams who are working long hours over the next several days. I also want to ask residents to be safe. And when you hear from Director Spriggs, he will advise you that we will slide our Monday trash collection, and will advise neighbors when the normal schedule resumes. With that, I want to turn to Director Clint Osborne, the Director of DCH-SEMA.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Clint Osborne, Director of the DC Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency. Under Mayor Bowser's leadership, the district's snow team has been tracking this system closely for the last week. With this morning's weather modeling from the National Weather Service, we are confident that this will be an impactful storm system. From 9 p.m. tonight through around 11 o'clock tomorrow night, the district is forecasted to receive 5 to 9 inches of snow with the potential of upwards of a foot. The first band of intense snow will fall overnight tonight and run through midday tomorrow, making morning travel challenging and slow. We're expecting a lull in the snowfall, then a second band of snow in the afternoon and early evening before tapering off overnight. This will cause slow and dangerous travel late tonight and all day tomorrow, and we ask that you stay off the roads where possible. Just as importantly, we're also going to experience dangerously low temperatures until the end of this week. Our overnight temperatures are below freezing, and with wind chills, the temperatures will feel as low as 4 degrees early on Thursday morning. As Mayor Bowser urged, we need people to come into shelter. These are fatally cold temperatures. With that, I'll turn it over to Director Tim Spriggs from the snow team to talk about snow operations.
Thank you, Clint. Good evening, everyone. My name is Timothy Spriggs. I'm the Director of the Department of Public Works. DPW has been in operation since 12 noon today. We will have more than 200 pieces of equipment during this operational period, concentrating on the residential areas as our primary level of interest. I have asked that you give our trucks times in order to put down salt to clean our streets. Also be advised, as the mayor stated, the snow emergency plan is now in effect beginning at 9 p.m. tonight. What that means is we will have tow trucks to move you to a location close to within your approximate neighborhood. If you need to locate your vehicle, please dial 311. Our leaf collection service has taken an operational pause and hopefully will resume as soon as it is operationally possible. Residential household trash, as the mayor has said, we will begin a slide day as well. So I tell everyone to be aware that please do not put your trash out because we will not be able to get it. What I will say is that we have, for the last couple of days, we have been salting the alleys in which we plan to go down for Monday and Tuesday. But because of the hazard and the interest of safety, we will not be doing trash tomorrow. If you do not have to be on the road, please, by all means, stay off the road. We need the road in order to make it safe. And as always, hey, look, be a good neighbor and check on your neighbor. Thank you.
And Randy, do you want to provide an update?
Good afternoon, everyone. Randy Clark, the General Manager of Metro. I want to thank the mayor for, sorry, Mayor, I didn't know what side you're on there. Thank the mayor and her team for having me with them today. We've been coordinating with all of our regional partners as well. So a couple updates on Metro. We've been working in preparation both with our partners and internally. We have about 500 pieces of total equipment that we use, about 85 of which are plows. We'll be really concentrating on our busways, sidewalks, all the areas around our stations and where we really move a lot of people. We have extra staffing in. Our Emergency Operations Center is active as of this evening. We are also have 10 de-icing trains that are specialized train equipment to get out and prevent icing on our third rails so we can run good service on there. We're also flexing as well as the district is, so any employee that has remote work option has already been sent notice on that, and we expect them to take advantage of that tomorrow to stay off the roads and help clear the roads. On the bus side, right now we're looking at what we call a moderate level. So that is about 114 routes in operation versus our normal 193. Now, based on conditions, the roads are obviously the biggest challenge on the transit side. So we really appreciate all the work that DPW, DOT, and others are going to be doing, let alone Fairfax, Montgomery, Prince George's, Alexandria, Arlington, all of our partners. We could reduce, depending on conditions, down to severe and worst case to lifeline. But right now, we are feeling relatively confident of running a moderate snow level. Service. On the rail side, I think it's fair to say people could expect some service impacts, really going to be based on staffing and conditions out in the field, but we are going to try to run as close as we can to a normal service, knowing that, quite frankly, we want to run the trains to keep the tracks clear and the switches clear, but I think people should expect some reduced service out there tomorrow, especially during the heaviest parts of the day. On Metro Access, we've already proactively encouraged people to book different trips, so we are going to be doing reduced service tomorrow. Really encourage people, WMATA.com/snow. Also follow us on social media and all of our alerts to get real-time information, especially, again, really specifically on the bus system. That's going to be depending, I don't want to say touch and go, but really based on conditions of where we are there. Lastly, our goal here is to get really good at moving all of our snow, working with our partners so we can run a regular service on Tuesday. That is our ultimate goal. Just a last reminder, as the mayor mentioned, with all the events going on related to President Carter's funeral, Archive Station is closed starting at 5 p.m. tomorrow. It will open again Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. But we will have some bus detours around the Capitol, around the archives, that stay in effect until Thursday. I think it's around 3 p.m. So again, best thing we can do here is everyone stay at home, enjoy watching the weather on TV, get out of the way of the roads, and we can run good transit service and get people around safely going forward from there. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a few questions. Any questions?
Hi, yes. Will the snow emergency have any impact or even strain the public safety and security resources dedicated to the President Carter funeral or the election certification?
Let me ask the Chief of Police to address that question.
Well, the answer is no. We've been preparing for preparations for the snow. We've been watching the news, the polar vortex, as we know that it was coming in this direction. And so we've been planning appropriately, which is effective this morning. We went to a 6 a.m. full activation for all of our personnel. So all of our personnel will be working 12-hour tours from now until the end of the week.
And for Mayor Bowser, I know you said you really don't like closing schools. I guess what goes into the decision-making, as far as public safety, keeping students and staff safe, closing schools versus keeping them open, because that's the only meal for a lot of students?
We make decisions about schools that are based on the academic requirements of our city and their safety. And so we make every effort to be open for our schools, for our kids to be in school buildings with their teachers and their fellow students so that they can learn. We expect this to be an active snow event at the time where our students start moving. And that includes drivers who report at 3 a.m. When we are expecting heavy snow that are carrying some of our students. And the other part of the day, when they would be commuting to school about 8, we are still expecting snowy conditions. So we're making the early call because we think that will be some of the most difficult time with the snow coming. And I don't think Clint or any of us have mentioned what we expect to be the rate of snow to also be pretty fast, about I think it was a half an inch to an inch and a half per hour, which is coming down pretty good during those times. So that's why we've made the decision early. Now, should the forecast change, and it could, and I'll cross my fingers that it will, but that's the information that we're operating under now.
David Kaplan with Fox 5. Can you talk about the last time you did the towing operation, just the snow emergency route, asking people to get off? I don't remember that from the last couple of years.
Well, it hasn't snowed a lot in the last couple of years, so that's probably why you're not remembering it. But we do it anytime we think that we're going to have a good snow, and as the team likes to say, we need to clear curb to curb. And they can get a better clean of the roads if there are no cars on those snow emergency routes. And they have been carefully selected around the city for emergency vehicles like Chief Donnelly and MPD, but also for evacuation purposes. So we really need people to be moving their cars so that they're not tying up a tow truck, so they're not calling 311, but they're moving their vehicles so they know exactly where their vehicles are.
And I know you gave the website, and as a district resident, I've seen the signs, but can you just walk, are there any
Sure.
sort of general things that people can know if they are, like if there's not a sign on your block, but there's a sign on a block up the street, for example, just to know, like, hey, I need to move my car?
Let me ask DDOT if they have some tips about knowing where the snow emergency routes are.
Sure, thanks for the question. There are red and white signs. They're actually higher than most of the signs that will indicate a snow emergency route. I also recommend, if you're not sure, to check on our website. We actually have the map up now for where the routes are. A lot of these routes are already rush hour restricted, so folks are probably pretty aware that you can't park there full time. But it is good to be informed, so if you're not sure, please look.
I'm Dan Rosenzweig with the Washington Post. Another question on this week's many events. Do these events change or affect the way you allocate resources for snow removal and things like that with the snow?
Who wants to respond to that? Spriggs, anyone? Or HCMA? Okay.
As far as that goes, the answer is no. Our job is to make sure that the streets are clear and that they are safe. So we are very much aware, and as the chief of police said, we knew that these NSCs were coming, so that was put into our planning process.
And obviously, we're going to be supportive of all of the events related to the NSSEs, including making sure people can get in and out of the locations, and supporting the Secret Service and their planning and their work with that. Yes.
Hello, Mayor. Alan Etter from WTOP. Have you ever seen a time when there has been such a glut of activity in a single month in Washington, D.C. that you've had to prepare for?
I think this is the first week where we've had 2 NSSEs, which that's a glut of activity, but it's also a glut of resources. And the weather event, like, adds another, wrinkle just for fun.
And a quick follow-up. Maryland and Virginia get to draw on federal resources for states of emergency. Do you have any, you want to talk about that? Is there any interaction from the federal government that you can draw upon for a snow emergency?
Well, obviously, we have many tools at our disposal, and as we will use them as needed.
Sorry, I asked the snow emergency question as it related to parking, but can someone just walk through kind of the process of clearing, the primary roads, secondary roads, kind of tertiary roads, just sort of how are you going to attack this given the timing and, if I'm a neighbor in Northeast DC or wherever in DC and live on a smaller residential street, when can I expect my road to be cleared, given what you know about the forecast right now?
All right, let me break it down, starting from 395, 695, 295. Those are our major corridors going in and out of our city. That will be our primary first part of our responsibility. Then once we get done then we will work our way into the residential areas as far as clearing. But the best way that the citizens can help us with that would be to stay off the road. Our primary, when you brought up the idea of the emergency no parking, we do not plan to tow your vehicle out of your community if at all possible. Our goal is to put it on the side street, dial 311, and they will know where their vehicle is being located.
But just as a reminder, it's going to snow all night long, a good part of tomorrow. There will be a lull in the snow, and it's going to snow some more. And it's going to be cold. It's not going to get above freezing until Friday. Okay, so the snow is going to be a lot of snow that comes, perhaps. And so our teams will deploy, as has been mentioned by Director Spriggs. Any other questions? Hey, go Commanders, beat Dallas. Thank you, everybody.